Well, you asked the question of some of the big teams taking the situation for granted. City have definitely done that. You know, when you look at their lack of recruitment in the summer, we've spoken about it before. They sold Julian Alvarez for massive money. Brilliant transfer deal that in terms of money coming into the football club, but they didn't reinvest it. And you're now in a situation where Erling Haaland, and Troy can speak about this, is clearly struggling for confidence. His penalty was poor yesterday, but they can't take him out of the team because they've got nobody else to play there.
Well, we'll talk about Erling Haaland specifically with you a little bit later on, because that is a big problem for them, and it has been a big problem for them, because if you rely on one person too much, and he did score basically all of their goals for the first 2 months of the season and hasn't scored any for ages now, or not on a regular basis. But what are the issues with Manchester City, and can you put your finger on it? Because I spoke to Pep Guardiola yesterday, and we'll hear that in just a second. And he said to me, sometimes when you win games, you ain't got a clue why you won it, and when you lose games, you haven't got a clue why it's happened too. Is that true?
No, I disagree with that, and I'm probably going to get hammered for disagreeing with Pep. But I think when you win, you know why, you know the processes, you know what you're doing well. When you're losing, I think at the moment part of the problem is none of them could understand why this is happening. And I'll take it to myself, as I said to you off air. Like, obviously, I had a problem with drinking. Now, stop drinking. But you have to hit a rock bottom when you're like, oh, my God, what am I doing? I need to fix this. I'm not going to have it again. And people have it in loads of different other ways.
So do you think City are in denial in it?
Absolutely, yeah. Everything is, injuries. Got loads of injuries, you know. Yeah, you still got the best squad. You still got the best players. You still doesn't mean that your defenders all of a sudden can't defend. Do you get what I mean? Like your best striker in world football cannot now score and looks like he's got no confidence. It's in denial because they're all sat there going, what's happening? Like, they're looking around for excuses. It'll be all right in a week or in 2 weeks. And I said it yesterday when I was working on BBC. I said, I'm bored of talking about this. If this was anybody else, we'd have moved on. If Spurs had lost as many games, we wouldn't have any part of the show about it.
But it's impossible to ignore the fact that the four
totally
times in a row champions have now gone through a massive drop-off. I mean, can anyone make sense of it? 03717223344. Is this the biggest drop-off in Premier League history, bearing in mind from where they've come to where they are? I mean, I go back to Chelsea in 2015-16. They won the title in 14-15, finished 10th the next year. But they hadn't had an established winning run going into that, going back 4 straight years. Blackburn, after they won the title, finished 7th in 95-96. But again, they hadn't had an established dynasty beforehand. This is like falling off a cliff.
But there's a few issues that still we're left to figure out what's going on. What's going on with Kevin De Bruyne?
After scoring 10 goals in his first 5 Premier League games of the season, Haaland's now only scored 3 in 13. Why?
Great question. He's missing a lot more. Normally he has 3, 4, 5 shots a game, scores a couple, sometimes scores 4 or 5. I always find the confidence thing a strange one to answer because it's a personal thing, isn't it? Right? So as strikers, you know you're going to miss. So I've never understood why people go into their shell, because if you scored every time,
right? Because he misses loads of chances. He's done it even when he was on his great run. He would miss a chance, and then the next minute he'd scored 2.
Yeah, but he had confidence in others that he would get another chance. He would get more chances. At the moment, there was a chance in the first half, if you remember. He gets slipped in by Phil Foden, and Pickford comes out, and he goes round him, and then he puts it back. Yeah. He puts it wide, and they get a corner from it.
Yeah.
I was watching that and I thought, does a Haaland that's fit and available and fully at it, does he dink him?
Take it early, yeah.
We've seen him do that finish before, and I just thought he's thinking now, and any athlete will tell you when you're just doing, you're not thinking. You go, oh, I'm in the flow. Yeah. At the moment, I'm watching him, and it's like, right, take care of the ball, then set it, now go into the box, as opposed to just doing the actions. But I think he's still going to end up scoring a lot of goals. You just have to say history will prove that. What I want to see from him is to be the big ugly guy that he can be with his physique and his power. Stop knocking people about. They went back to front a lot quicker. Yes, that was the tweak I noticed.
Yeah.
But then I realised he hasn't done it for so long that he looked a bit confused.
Yeah,
which is a strange mix of.
Do you think that also there's a part of him that's hasn't got any competition? So it's not as if he's getting. There's no one knocking at the door saying, "Hold on a second, I deserve to play here." Last year he had Alvarez, who stepped in for him when he wasn't available, and was there if he wasn't scoring to come on and do something different and give a different dimension to the team.
Yeah,
doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. That holds weight. Obviously, competition for place is always, iron sharpens iron, doesn't it? Is the old saying. I had a picture in my mind just as you was talking. Do you remember when they played Spurs in the Carabao Cup and they rested everybody, Man City? And they went out and Haaland and I think it was Akanji were just laughing on the bench like, don't matter, this is not our competition kind of vibe. That was 2.5 months ago.
That was at the start of the run. That was the first. That was the first defeat. That was 58 days ago.
So when you think about it, like 2.5 months ago, you were in a position where it was like, it doesn't even matter. We go at this, we win everything.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we may not even make the top 4. Now I'm not saying
may not qualify for the round of 16 in the Champions League either.
There's a lot of people questioning it, and it's just like. I always try to think, why can you go from one extreme to the other when life and business is about trying to be as level as possible?
Are you surprised that yesterday, when he was talking to Stuart Pearce on the television, he said that they would sign players in January, 2 or 3. They'd strengthen the middle and the back, and he didn't talk about up front.
No, because you've got the best. So it's going to be really difficult to play second fiddle. So for argument's sake, let's say that they had all the money in the world and they went and bought Isak from Newcastle.
Yeah, which they won't do, yeah.
Yeah, of course they won't. But Isak was like, why am I going to come there and not play?
Tottenham had that with Harry Kane, didn't they, for a number of years? They couldn't really attract a proper backup striker. Go
and get somebody that's 17, 18, that's got real big potential and let him learn behind. Just to really quickly throw it to Crookie, with them buying in Jan, I think that got expedited anyway because they were going to go big in the summer. Yeah. This summer, weren't they, Crookie? I think 7 players potentially. Yeah. So maybe they'll do 3 and 4.
Well, I heard 6 and 6 over the next 3 windows. So, but maybe not doing too much in January. So 12 over the next 3 windows. Let's see what happens.
The trouble in January is you're only really going to get players that other clubs don't want, or you're going to have to pay astronomical fees. Yeah. And the fact that Guardiola actually has shown his hand to you and said we're going to bring in 2 or 3. I think the prices have already skyrocketed. But it's interesting just hearing him list the players that are unavailable, and you say 35% of the outfield players. Some of them haven't made an impact when they have been fit this season. I've just looked at Jack Grealish's record. Since the start of last season, he's scored 3 Premier League goals.
He hasn't scored for over a year for Manchester City.
That's a £100 million player. Carl Walker, who we both felt had a really poor European Championships with England, he's continued that this season. When he has been fit, he's been a liability for City. So there's too many players. Who's been City's best player this season? Because Haaland's underperformed. De Bruyne's not been fit. We've mentioned Grealish. We mentioned Walker. John Stones has not been fit. Bernardo Silva in flashes. Give me a City player who's actually performed to their true level this season.
Not one.
Goalkeeper's been poor.
Can I ask a question? And this is genuinely just a question that's popped in my head. When does Phil Foden start getting criticised?
I forgot about him. He's been terrible this season.
Well, he was the player of the year last season. He was scoring goals for fun. I mean, he's got 1 Premier League goal this season.
But his name never seems to be mentioned in the problems. But, like in the things that are going negatively, his name never seems to get mentioned. But all last year was the rising star, passing of the torch with Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. And now he's playing more and he's the main man.
But he's not become a terrible player overnight, so there's got to be a deeper lying issue here with these players.
So here's a couple of questions. Well, first of all, let's throw out to the Manchester City fans. 03717223344 81089 on the text. You can WhatsApp us 03717223344. Just very quickly, do you think that Pep Guardiola's demeanour and language that he uses pre and post match has... I don't want to say he's putting it into the minds of his players.
He's allowed for it.
But is he sort of almost talking them down a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's allowed for it. He's allowed for excuse and complacency to slip in.
Which is a strange thing for someone at his level to do.
But it's human nature, right? He's trying to look after his team. He's trying to give the press ways out to kind of like look a bit of sleight of hand with magic. I think when I listen to it now, and I know players, we'll never blame ourselves. It's never our fault first. It's always, if I'm a strike, Haaland's not going, it's my fault I missed a penalty. He's going, yeah, but if I had 3 more shots in the game, I'd have scored. Do you get what I mean? That's just kind of what we do. And I just think when the manager starts saying, but we've got loads of injuries, you as a player then can go, you know what? When everyone's fit, we'll be okay. You start falling into the trap of believing all these excuses.
Okay, 03717223344. David's a Man City fan. Want to get to him in just a second. We got Steve, Charlie, Paul, and Mark as well. Want to get on. The Manchester City players, says one texter, are exhausted from years of Pep ball, physically and mentally shot. With Manchester City, says Simon, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. For the last few years, you're always saying, when Rodri plays, City don't lose, and when he got injured, they lost. The players are all subconsciously realising that the thing people have been saying is actually true, so they started believing it too. And that slow psychological pressure kept building and building and building, and now they go on the pitch believing they can't win without him. It's all psychological, because when Everton equalised, they believed they couldn't win. That's Simon. And interestingly, when I spoke to Josko Gvardiol a week ago, he said to me, I feel like when we concede a goal, no matter how well we're playing, it's then our destiny to lose. 03717 2233 44. We will get to the red side of Manchester as well very shortly, but let's get your reaction to this first.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.